Real Shame, a show where the two of us talk about our list of movie blind spots, movies we haven't seen. We're finally watching them and we're discussing them amongst each other, filming it, slapping it on the old interwebs, and hopefully you somewhat enjoy it. Please? Maybe?
Please.
Thank you. My name's Andy.
I'm Adam.
And on Monday, we talked about a movie on Monday's episode.
That's right.
From my list of shame, technically also your list of shame. Neither one of us had seen it, called Sophie's Choice. Adam decided to pair that with another movie that I'm going to let him tell you about.
All right. Post-World War II Germany, nearly a decade after his affair with an older woman came to a mysterious end. I read that really weird. Nearly a decade after his affair with an older woman came to a mysterious end, a law student, Michael Berg, re-encounters his former lover as she defends herself in a wartime trial in The Reader.
How are you feeling?
Better. I meant to tell you. The day I got ill, a woman helped me.
She helped you?
Yes, she brought me home.
Do you have her address?
The Reader is a 2008 movie. It is from a novel written by Bernard Schnicht, and it's written for the screen by David Hare, sorry about that, and it's directed by Stephen Daldry. Schnicht is a German lawyer. He's an academic and novelist, and he's best known for The Reader, which was published in 1995. Hare, the writer, has done movies such as Damage, The Hours, and Skylight. And Daldry, the director, has done The Hours also, Billy Elliot, and Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close. So The Reader is really like a parable. I'm pulling some of this from Wikipedia. So The Reader is really a parable that's about dealing with the difficulties of the post-war German generation that they had, comprehending the Holocaust and, their parents and older people's involvement in it. It was aimed successfully at the generation of the Bertolt Brecht, also called the Nachgeborenen. And those who came after. Then this novel's in the genre of
Vergangenheitsbewältigung.
Yep, exactly. That's why Eddie's here, which is basically the people that struggle to come with terms with the past. So it's another heavy kind of movie, like Sophie's Choice was. But it's interesting to kind of cover these different kind of movies, and it, like I said, like with Sophie's Choice, it seemed to be well received critically, and it got some awards nominations, which we'll talk about in a bit. This movie stars Ralph Fiennes, Ray Fiennes. Is it Ray Fiennes, right? Ray Fiennes as Michael Berg, Janine Hahn as Brigitte, David Cross as the young version of Michael Berg, and then Kate Winslet as Hannah Schmitz. So this was a movie I haven't seen, but also a movie you haven't seen.
Never seen.
What did you know anything about The Reader before going into it?
No, I remember this movie coming out, but no, I didn't know a single thing about it.
I remember this movie coming out. I remember it getting some award, like some critical acclaim, but I thought it was a modern movie. I didn't know it took place, back in, post World War II Germany. I think it takes place like 1950, and then through the years after
beyond,
that.
Yeah, no, I same way. I mean, I didn't know what time period.
Yeah.
I maybe I knew Kate Winslet was in it. That's about it.
Okay.
Didn't know anything about it. So really blind going into
All right.
this.
So since you don't have any prior thoughts because you didn't know much about it,
Nope.
What are your thoughts on The Reader after watching it? Not reading it, watching it.
So you said at the end of the last episode you weren't sure how well these paired together. I think they go really well together.
Okay.
Honestly. So good job.
I did one thing right.
Yeah, no, I think they go really well together. Because once again, I said this on Monday with Sophie's Choice. The movie, it's like it starts as one thing and it becomes something else. And I think your like of the movie or your tolerance for the movie or whatever will depend on how well those revelations are received by you as the audience member. In the case of Sophie's Choice, I thought that the movie got so much more interesting and so much more compelling once you find out about kind of the damaged past of Sophie and the damaged mental stability of Nathan's character in Sophie's Choice. And I'm happy to say this movie is really no exception. I mean, it's the same. It's a similar kind of sensation for me in watching The Reader. Once again, the movie starts off, and it's definitely a shocking film even at the
Yeah.
beginning, because you have an older woman who's like in her, I guess, mid-30s or something,
Yeah.
who's having sexual relations with a 15-year-old boy
Yes.
in post-war West Germany. So the side of Germany you wanted to be, right? When they're split, what am I trying to say? Free Germany,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. The Democratic Germany, not Socialist Germany.
So, but they're in West Germany. But she has this basically affair. Affair just as in romantic affair, not that she's married or anything like that. But she has relations with a boy. So that's obviously shocking unto itself. But you think, or at least I thought, because again, I'm not sure where this movie's going. I was like, is this movie just going to be about her?
Yeah.
Having relations with this boy and kind of how that affects him, or whatever. But as the story progresses, eventually, so basically they have a summer together. I don't know why I'm using air quotes. They have a summer together. It's not literal or figurative. It's real. So forget the air quotes. They have a summer together, and then they both kind of go their separate ways. You see him as slightly older young man who's in law school, and he ends up going to a trial, which you don't really know anything about as they're kind of walking into the building, into the venue, the courtroom. But then you find out that she's on trial along with several other women for war crimes.
Yep.
Because they basically were in charge of keeping these Jewish prisoners confined and whatnot in this concentration camp.
Choosing which ones to kill. And then ultimately.
Horrible things.
Yeah, letting them burn to death.
Yeah. And so you're like, holy crap, I mean, because obviously already you don't think of this person as a good person because she's having sexual relations with a minor, but you find out that as the movie progresses, and the movie takes on like a whole nother level basically at that point. And so once again, I found the movie super interesting. I didn't find it uninteresting up to that point, but the movie really hooked me once he goes and sees her on trial. And I found it interesting in a different way than Sophie's Choice, because obviously they're two different stories. But I found myself, and you were kind of reading about it, and in the intro, I found myself thinking about, how do you feel about people like this? What should be your feeling towards this woman? And he's conflicted as well. Obviously, he's had a much more intimate relationship with her than other people, but he is conflicted as to whether or not to reveal, because obviously the title, or not obviously, but we spoil things. The title of the movie is kind of based on the fact that he reads to her because she cannot read.
Yeah,
he is conflicted because he realizes now she's done terrible things in her past. Should he come forward and say anything, because she's going to take the fall? Not that she's innocent, she's guilty as well, but she's basically going to take the fall and be the leader of these women, even though she may or may not necessarily have been, all because she's too afraid to say that she can't read.
And the whole case hinges on whether or not she wrote this letter,
this report, about
and if
like
she
what
can't
happened.
read, obviously she
right.
can't. If she still wrote it, she obviously can't probably write that. But I would argue and say there's probably multiple times. This movie shows multiple times where he is torn between helping her or not, because also later on, like with the prison, there's a couple times where he's gonna go see her, but he doesn't go see her, and then and all that kind of stuff.
Right. But overall, before I go any further, overall, I will say I really enjoyed this movie as well. I thought it was really, well acted, all that kind of stuff. I love. I don't know if I guess you didn't mention him in the front, but their law professor is played by Bruno Ganz, famous German actor. Love him.
I liked him.
He's awesome.
Yeah.
But overall, I mean, I thought obviously everybody did a great job, and I just found the movie super interesting, especially given the developments that occur later on in the film. Maybe not an easy watch because of some of the subject matter in it, but it's still, I feel like, a very good film. And it definitely made me think a lot. I would say it made me think more than Sophie's Choice.
Yes.
Just based on, again, the things that happened in World War II, and we're going to come back to that. No matter how long you live, you could still think about that and kind of dwell on, it's fascinating in the way, like it's horrible, but the way that it causes you to think about things like that, I find that sort of thing interesting.
Yeah.
Not again, it's an awful, awful, awful thing.
Well,
But I find it interesting to think about how people receive that or they
Yeah.
interpret it.
Well, and I think the interesting thing that the law professor says is that, like, what they're doing is obviously a crime now, but it wasn't necessarily a crime when they did it. And the stat he gave, right? He's like,
Yeah.
400 people or something have been, accused and tried for it, but only 6 were actually found guilty.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting and led, lots of me being like, oh wow, that's an interesting way to think about it. And obviously, it's inhumane and despicable what happened, but it's just, I mean, Germany's been grappling with it since,
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I'll shut up about what I was saying, and we can continue whatever later. But what about you? Was this more interesting than Sophie's Choice? You weren't as high on Sophie's Choice as me. Was this better, worse, more interesting?
I think I liked it less than Sophie's Choice.
Okay.
I'm with you. There are parts of it that I find interesting, but there's things with this movie that I wish they did differently. So. I was reading a little bit about the book, and the book is kind of broken up into 3 parts, and it seems like the book is told linearly.
Mm-hmm.
So the first part is, young Michael and Hannah, having their summer tryst and all that stuff. The second part is him going to college, maturing, and finding out about the trial. And then the third part is him older, as an established lawyer, and dealing with all that. And so I say that in the fact that I wish this movie was linear, told more linear than it was, because I feel like the cynic in me feels like, since they had a big name like Ralph Fiennes, they wanted to start the movie with him.
Yeah.
And so we have that scene from the beginning where he had had a one night stand or whatever with the lady. Then he's made her breakfast. And then he looks out the window and we're stuck on the train.
Yeah.
And I have 2 major issues with that. One is it really doesn't add anything. And I don't really feel like it sets up why he's all of a sudden thinking about what happened. And 2, the movie just kicks right into it. And I literally thought that I missed the first 10 minutes of the movie. I feel like I was like, is this movie starting in the right place? So I started at the beginning. Like, I had that kind of thought. Because it literally, when it kicked off, it felt like it was in the middle of, it was like, in the middle of a movie. So I really don't like that aspect of it. And the flashbacks of him with his daughter, and then the wrapper of him, going to her grave and talking to his daughter, I don't feel like those added anything to the movie. It really felt, even though they are the same character, Ralph Fiennes and David Cross, it never felt like those 2, the flashbacks and the current time, were in dialogue with each other, right? Mm-hmm. And we kind of talked about this with Little Women. Like, my favorite kinds of movies that have a flashback is you see something in present day, and then it relates to something that they're flashing back to. There's a dialogue between the 2. And here it really just felt like the flashbacks were just to get more FaceTime with Ralph Fiennes, and there really wasn't anything to kind of tie them together. Minus him looking at the railroad tracks and seeing a train, right? But there's no thematic to it. So I really didn't care for that the way that was done. And I think the movie would have been so much better if we would have really just kind of had Ralph Fiennes at the end, as the older version of it, and this was told linearly rather than through these different flashbacks that the story was told through. So really, that's kind of my biggest criticism against the movie. Was, and I wrote in my notes, like, do we really need Rafe at all? Like, and this was, I was writing this about halfway through the movie.
Yeah.
Because, I kind of take notes, casually while I watch the movie. And I was like, man, he's not bringing anything to this. Like, I'm like, why is he in here? And then we get to the end and I'm like, okay, this makes more sense and all that. But it just really, I really feel like he didn't add a whole lot to the movie in the early stages. And I wish they kind of reworked it a little bit. And it seems like it was a device that was made up solely for the movie rather than something that they were kind of borrowing or bringing to the screen from the book.
Right.
My other criticism with this movie is we see that David is torn a couple times, but he never really expresses like his inner monologue, right? Like we see him crying and we see it affecting him, but we never have him writing down how he feels or talking to anyone how he feels. So I don't know like where his head's at with the movie. And I think this is more of a preference than like they didn't do it, so it's a bad movie. I think it's more of a viewer's preference thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I can understand that maybe people like it, that it's not spelled out and they can just kind of add to whatever they want. But for me to kind of understand Michael a little bit more and feel for him, I need to know kind of where his head's at, and I don't get that from him. And honestly, I found his inaction a little annoying, a little grating in the movie, because I didn't know why he couldn't act, right? I mean, I could probably pontificate and come up with my own excuse, but I really wish the movie kind of spelled it out just a little bit more. You don't have to be completely over the top with it. Yeah. I wish the movie kind of spelled it out a little bit more with what he's dealing with, what he thinks the ramifications are, if he says something in her trial, if he doesn't. Like, does he hold back because he thinks that she's a monster for what she did? Or does he hold back because he thinks that, or she's a monster for what she did to those Jewish people or the people that were in the concentration camp? Or does he hold back because he's heartbroken because of what she did to him? Or is it a combination of the two? I really wish the movie kind of dug into that and showed that a little bit more. And again, I feel like, do you have an opinion on that at all, or
why he didn't say,
or a preference? Do you have an opinion on a preference if the movie did it versus not doing it?
No, I don't. I think it's more designed to make you think about what you would do, honestly, rather than to me, it's not really important whether he comes forward or not. I was going to say I think the worst thing about this movie, I don't know what it means to be an illiterate as an adult, because I was taught to read and write as you were, and like most children are when they're children.
Yeah.
But I was like, why doesn't she just admit that she can't read or write? Like that was the one thing that really got to me during the movie. I was like, is it so important to her? And again, I don't know. I don't know what it means to be an illiterate as an adult, so I'm not trying to speak for anybody else. But I feel like if it meant
life or death.
Yeah, if it meant me getting this, because she gets life in prison, the other women basically get a slap on the wrist almost. They don't serve a lot of time.
Well, because they put all the they basically put all the blame on her when they see a way they can get a lighter sentence. They're like, oh yeah, she did.
Yeah, and so, but it's like, in order to get out of it, she could just be like, I'm unable to read or write, but she doesn't, presumably because she is ashamed. Yeah. But it's like, is your shame going to be that great that you would not,
But I think it's two kinds of shame. I think it's shame for not being able to do it. I think it's shame for what she did.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you.
So I think there's a little bit of Sophie's choice in that, where she's just
I agree.
She's like, yeah, I probably should, do some time.
Yeah.
But yeah,
that's true.
And it seems to me, and I don't know why he comes around to start sending her the books on tape. I do like how that's done, where he has little circles and you can see him like expand to tell him what order there are and stuff. And it did kind of get a little dusty when she figured out that she could use that and use the book to read. Mm-hmm. Like, I thought that was interesting and moving in that way. But I really wish, why does he end up sending her the tape? Like, after all these years, and why doesn't he respond to her letters? Like, I find that really more frustrating that the movie doesn't give us a little bit more of a clue rather than.
Yeah. So my 2 cents on that is that, so I do agree with you that I don't know that the movie needs to be told in flashback form. I feel like it could also be told linearly
Yeah.
and still be fine. I think that introductory scene is just to establish how he is, especially when it comes to like intimate relationships. He keeps all these women at arm's length. He'll
Yeah.
sleep with them,
She says
but then
that
he
to him,
doesn't really, he doesn't really want anything to do with him afterwards because he was kind of abandoned by the Kate Winslet character by Hannah. And I also think that honestly, that's probably his. How do I say this tastefully? Probably no woman has ever compared to what his experience was with Hannah.
Yeah.
So they're all just kind of meaningless,
Yeah,
right? He
I
just
can
has
see
these
that.
meaningless one night stands or whatever. But I feel like because he's so torn about whether or not, because I think you said he feels like she's a horrible person, especially once he sees her on trial. He feels like she's a horrible person. So that's why he chooses not to come forward and say, no, she actually can't read or write.
Yeah.
But he does feel a bit guilty about that, and he does still love her in a strange way. So the least he can do is still read to her, even though he's not reading to her, he's recording it and sending it to her. But that's as far as he'll go. He still kind of keeps her at arm's length by not writing to her. But he'll go ahead and give her these audiobooks, basically audiobooks on cassette. That's it.
He's the first Audible, guys.
Yeah, that's it. But that was kind of my interpretation of it.
Yeah.
So
I'm just kind of torn on that, and again, I wish it gave me a little bit more of a clue. But again, they might be keeping it purposefully, purposefully vague to so people can figure out how they feel and all that. I just found it more annoying because it was just like it felt like he was teasing her at some point, and I'm like, okay, this lady,
I can see that.
This lady's already spent her life in prison. You're kind of kicking her while she's down.
Yeah.
And again, she did horrible things.
Yeah, well, I was going to say,
inhumane, but it's just kind of like, I mean, at some point you just write her off and move on, or at least that's what I would do.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, I think there was some criticism of this book that, and I guess the movie as well by extension, that they almost make her a compassionate character.
I think you do a little bit.
Yeah, but so that's the thing. That's another thing that I like about this film. I think it forces you to investigate your own feelings about how would you feel about this person if this was you. How do you feel about it just watching it as a film? What should you feel? Are those feelings right or are those feelings wrong? And I'm not here to answer any of those questions. That's more an internal monologue for yourself. But I like the movie for that reason, because it's like, should I feel good or should I feel bad about her? Should I feel indifferent? What should I feel? I think that's good. I think the movie raises a lot of questions. It doesn't answer them. It forces you to kind of come to your own conclusions.
And that's what makes me like this movie. I'm not over the moon about it, but I'm with you. This is what does it for me for this movie, is that it kind of brings up those questions and it makes you kind of investigate how you feel with that. So I think anything you want to say before I start giving some trivia on this?
Nope.
All right. So this movie was nominated for a bunch of Oscars. It was nominated for Best Performance by an Actress in a Leading Role. It's nominated for Best Picture, Best Motion Picture of the Year. It was nominated for Best Achievement in Directing, Best Writing Adapted Screenplay, and Best Achievement in Cinematography. Like I said, I think I said at the beginning, or I said at least on Monday's episode, it ended up winning Best Performance for an Actress in a Lead Role for Kate Winslet, which I thought she did a fairly good job. It's a hard role to play, and she did well. And the other trivia that I have here is Stephen Daldry. This is his third film, and it was his third time getting a Best Director nomination. I mean, 3 for 3 out of the gates. That's pretty good. In case you're wondering, like I was, what the first two was Billy Elliot, not Billy Madison.
I was going to say Billy Madison. That'd be awesome.
Madison, yeah. It was Billy Elliot and The Hours were the other two movies that he was nominated for. So where are the critics on this bad boy, and where can we stream it?
Supposedly it's streaming on Showtime. I also don't have a subscription. I don't have a subscription to Peacock or Showtime, so I can't verify that.
Give us money
But
so we can do it.
It's supposedly. I had a subscription to Showtime at one point, but I didn't use it very often. Sorry, Showtime. I just didn't.
Does Showtime have billions?
Maybe I didn't watch it if it was on there.
Yeah.
I just didn't use it much. I used HBO far more. HBO Max.
Yep.
It's 63% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, 79% audience. So Roger Ebert at some point stopped ranking a top 10. He just kind of made a best of list, but this was on his best of list, and he gave it 3.5 stars in print.
Cool.
So obviously that's thumbs up. Leonard Maltin agrees. He also gives it 3.5 stars.
He likes it better than Sophie's Choice.
I was going to say one additional thing on the awards.
Yeah.
So Kate Winslet cleaned up at the Golden Globes. So she not only did she win an Oscar for this, but at the Golden Globes she won the Golden Globe for I think actress for this and supporting actress for Revolutionary Road.
No, I think it was
the other way
opposite.
around.
Yeah,
other way around. But she won both of the actress awards at the Golden Globes. It's unfair. Give somebody else a chance, Kate Winslet.
Yeah, I
on.
was reading on IMDb trivia. They're saying like 4 women that have won best performance by an actress at the Oscars won for the same role supporting at the Golden Globes.
Ah, okay.
It was her. Gotcha. It was Meryl Streep, and I forgot the other 2. So as long as that trivia is right,
Meryl Streep.
Yeah, as long as that trivia is right, that was the case.
Yeah, and everything that's lost at the Oscars, it lost to Slumdog Millionaire.
All right,
it's easy to remember.
Yep,
they lost all the other awards to Slumdog Millionaire. Slumdog Millionaire cleaned up.
It did. And what did Leonard Maltin think about this bad boy? Or did you already say?
Yeah, I did. But 3.5. I'll say it again.
All right.
That's high marks for Leonard.
High marks for Leonard. Oh, yeah, I said better than Sophie's Choice, and I said it again. All right, that was The Reader. On these Wednesday episodes, we always like to answer viewers' questions. We spent a lot of time today talking about a movie that stars Kate Winslet, and she's done a lot of movies, so we decided to pick our favorite or some of our favorite Kate Winslet movies. What are our favorite Kate Winslet movies?
I can tell you right now, it ain't Titanic.
I haven't seen Titanic in a long time. Is it terrible?
I mean, I liked it okay, but it's definitely not my favorite Kate Winslet movie. I know that's like a movie that everybody thinks of when they think of Kate Winslet. Obviously, she's done tons of other movies, but they're like Titanic. Titanic, yeah.
I really don't have any ones that I want to call out. I really just have the one that is my favorite role that she's in.
I'm gonna call out 2 before I get to the actual Kate Winslet
have at it
pick of mine, and it's movie 43. No, for how horribly that movie's received, it does have a lot of A-list actors in it. It's got Hugh Jackman in it. It's got Halle Berry in it. A lot of people in it.
Well, I will say before you do it, we did do Contagion for the show.
We did
way back at the beginning before the pandemic. Or I think right at the beginning.
Yeah, right at the
when we didn't realize how bad the pandemic was actually going to be.
We did that.
We did Contagion.
We did.
But that's really the one I wanted to call out. What about you, buddy?
Two movies I'll call out. And both of them are movies that admittedly it has been a while since I've seen. But I like the movie Iris that she's in with Judi Dench. I remember that getting... I remember getting Oscar buzz. I don't remember if it got any actual nominations. Maybe an actress nomination or something. I don't know about for Kate Winslet. Probably for Judi Dench. I like that one. And I like the movie that... a Peter Jackson movie that he did before The Frighteners, before all the Lord of the Rings stuff, before King Kong, obviously. Heavenly Creatures that he did back in New Zealand. It's got Kate Winslet and Melanie Linsky. It's based on a real-life story or a real-life incident where 2 young girls ended up murdering one of their mothers. But it's really, really... I remember it being really, really good. So I think Heavenly Creatures is definitely...
high on my list. There's a couple early Peter Jackson movies I have yet to see that I do want to see. So
that's definitely one to check out. Maybe we'll do it on Real Shame at some point. But yeah, that's definitely one to check out. But those are the 2 I'd want to call out.
All right.
We want to go with your choice since I just did some also rans.
Oh yeah, so mine is probably not a big surprise, but it's Michelle Gondry's own Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Say that 3 times fast. That is
Vergangenheitsbewältigung.
Yeah, that's right. It's also about that. No, it's a crazy, awesome movie. I think it made a huge splash for Michelle Gondry. It is visually innovative and interesting, and it tells a really interesting, kind of heartbreaking story about the lengths people will go through for after a breakup, and kind of how maybe some people are drawn to each other and maybe not, and all that. And is it worth remembering a poor relationship or not, and all that. It's very interesting, very well done. Actually, did Michelle Gondry do being John Malkovich?
That's Spike Jones.
Oh, Spike Jones. Okay, yeah. So okay, yeah. So made a big splash for Michelle Gondry. So for me, it's Eternal Sunshine, Spotless Mind. What about you?
I need to watch that again. It's been a long time since I've seen it. I do remember liking it. I think I've only seen it once, and that was in the theater
wow, man.
way back in 2004, whenever it came out. Well, Kino Lorber put it out on 4K Blu-ray, so I should get that and check it out.
You should watch some of the behind the scenes stuff, because some of the things they do to show like the changes and the passing of time it's really good filmmaking and really interesting.
I need to watch it again for sure.
It's a lot better than Green Hornet.
Oh God, yeah, I hate that movie. My pick is going to be Quills with Kate Winslet and Jeffrey Rush as the Marquis de Sade, and it's got Joaquin Phoenix in it.
Right.
That's a movie from the late '90s that I saw that in the theater way back when. So been a long time ago, but yeah, that's a good one that doesn't, again, kind of like Heavenly Creatures. I don't feel like it gets talked about enough these days, so I'm gonna throw that out there. I can't remember if Quills is on Blu-ray or not. I know Heavenly Creatures is.
I think I remember Quills. I don't think I've ever seen Quills.
Yeah, it's good.
So good.
I mean, again, I have not seen any of these movies that I'm rattling off from that list in quite a while. So hopefully, I still feel the same about them. But my memory tells me, hey man, these were good.
Yep.
So,
all right,
there we go.
There you go. That's our favorite Kate Winslet movies. We left off Titanic. Maybe Titanic's yours.
I mean, I think Titanic is
good.
Yeah, sure.
I need to rewatch it again.
Yeah, so do I.
It's been a few years.
Yeah,
it's probably been a decade.
Yeah, easily for me. Easily.
So yeah, that's our favorite Kate Winslet movies. Let us know what your favorite Kate Winslet movie is. If you're watching us on YouTube, leave a comment down below. Let us know. Also, let us know what you think of The Reader. Did it make you think? Where do you feel about it? Is it good, not, whatever? Indifferent? Let us know. Leave a comment down below. We really appreciate that. Please like, subscribe, share, do all that social media stuff. It really does help, and we really do appreciate it. And stay tuned next week as we watch the movies from my list of shame. And we'll see you soon, guys. Have a good one.